What's going on, guys? We are here because the wildcard draft has just finalized, and we know what teams are playing who because they picked them in the first round of the Swiss for the wildcard at the World Championship. If you don't know what a wildcard draft is, really quickly, I'll run it through. Basically, you had your region spot leaderboard throughout that we were looking at for, top 8 picks to see who goes to the main event, like the NA ones, the EU ones, OC ones and all that stuff to see where they would land. Based on that, we knew our top 8. Those teams got buys to the main event, but the other teams still had something to play for, and that was for your position in the wild card draft. So 9 through 16, you get drafted 9 drafts first of the teams that are left that were non-major related, so there's no points necessarily for those squads. So they get to draft out of that pool of teams. So real quick, let's look over exactly what that means and where teams are seated going forward. Now, one thing really quickly. So first round is a draft, but after that, the way we seed Swiss is based on a formula that I made last year for your relative strength of a team based on their region, based on world region leaderboards. And let's get into that really quick. So I'm going to bring this up from Rubenal because I didn't have my fancy spreadsheet made and he did it for me basically. So basically what he did was he took what I did last year and threw everything in. So your wild card top seeds based on the World Region Leaderboard, Complexity G2, Moist Pioneers, Crew, Space Station, Power, and Elevate, because APAC was still at the majors, so they got that last spot. Then the wild card bottom seeds are teams that didn't have a major spot, and they were just additional teams. So Team Falcons is MENA number 2. They're not at majors, so they're in the bottom seeds, and they can be drafted. Oxygen, Secret, Twisted Minds, G1, Gaming Gladiators, Limitless, and French Class, the 2 teams from SSA. So let's go over exactly how the seeding works. So again, the first seeds, I'm going to try and zoom this in a little bit for you guys so you can see it a little better. So your seeds 1 through 16 are set based on the World Region Leaderboard that we did throughout. EU1 got 112 points, so that's K-Corp. So they will be seeded 1 in the main event for the World Championship. Gen G follows them, Vitality, Liquid, FaZe Clan, Ninjas in Pajamas, Team BDS, and Rule 1. After that top 4 performance, they just barely got above NA3. That moved NA3 down into the wild card, which means 1 less spot for North America. So V1 was out. 1 more spot for MENA. So Twisted Minds was in. And then you go on down the line and see how teams fared. Like OC2 and APAC came in last in every event, but APAC did worse generally. So they are the bottom seed. As you can see here, tie for EU3, third at Spring Major, but NA2 they were tied with, so EU3 gets the advantage there based on the most recent performance. Moving on, seeds 17 through 24. So this is the tweet for, or the math formula on how we will rate these teams, even though they didn't have a World Region Leaderboard spot. So basically what you do is you take the last spot at the World Region Leaderboard and you times that by 2.5. The reason why you times it by 2.5, so it emulates a full year of play because normally majors count as like 2 regionals and then there's 9 other regionals as well. So you got to do that so it seems like it's a full year. So the points are balanced based on when we compare them to their teams in their region. So 2.5 last World Region Leaderboard spot. So for Falcons, that would mean MENA 1 because there's only 1 MENA team in, so that is the last spot. But if it was an OCE team, it would be OCE 2, not OCE 1. So you compare it there. Then Falcons obviously were lower than their MENA 1 spot of Rule 1. So then you go, so you have to minus those points. So Rule 1's actual points, you take those away, and then you add back in the Falcons points. So basically it's the difference between how far down you were from the last World Region Leaderboard spot in your own region. So Falcons were 10 points below Rule 1, so that's where you get those points for. But they also get credit for Rule 1 making top 8 because that's going to bump them up a bit, because if Rule 1 is a top 8 team, then Falcons, who are only 10 points below, are a very strong team. So that's why they get the highest seed here that is left over. So they get 95 points in terms of their seed, which is vastly better than everyone else. So they are the highest seed that comes out of that. Then you got Oxygen and Team Secret. They follow it 58 and 54. Twisted Minds at 42 because their points were a lot lower compared to Falcons. Even though they're in the same region, it doesn't mean both teams will just get that inherent advantage that Rule 1 had a top 8. Twisted Minds were so far down in points that they lost out on a lot of their points for this instance on this math formula to see where they should be. Because they were definitely the third best MENA team by far. There was a wide gap between them and Rule 1, so that's why they fall down a bit. Then you got G1 from Europe, and then Game and Gladiators finishes off. So basically, they didn't get any bonus points out of APAC 1. They came in last, and the Game and Gladiators, they were relatively close, but not that close to their APAC region, so they fall down to seeding points of 9. There's one little thing here that he thinks that the seeds are based on this, and he would have the SSA teams as the bottom 2 seeds. That is incorrect. So that's the one correction from Rubinal. I want to make sure I pronounce that right. Basically, since SSA beat APAC last time around and they placed better at the World Championship, SSA number 1 will get the 22 seed. Game and Gladiators will get the 23 seed. And then SSA 2 will get the 24th seed. So going into the wild card for the Swiss, that matters a lot because if there's, say, 4 teams tied at the top and they all went 4-0, then you see them based on how they came in. So if it's seeds 1, 5, 8, and 9, obviously the 1 seed will continue being the 1 seed. 5 will move up to the 2 seed. 8 will get the 3 seed. 9 will get the 4th seed. So that's how that all plays out. And obviously that wouldn't make sense because 8 and 9 play each other, but don't worry about that. Well, I guess with the wildcard draft, that's not necessarily true. So let's get into what actually happened at the draft today. It was on First Touch. It just completed. I was waiting until it was done to show the video, or to make this video. So let's get into it. Let's pop it up. Bam! Oh, wait. I got to slide. Over. Drafting teams versus the pool. Here it is. Let me get my other things ready here. Okay. Okay, hold on. Sorry. I just need one thing here. But basically, let's go down the line here. I have to do a couple things here. All right. So let's go through it. Complexity, they got to choose first, and we'll hang out over here for now, even though I'm a little bit far from my camera. It feels weird. So Complexity, they got to choose first, again, because they were seed 9. They picked Valiant. That is the SSA number 2 seed, which basically they came on and said, of course, we're going to pick SSA number 2. This should be a free win. That's basically what they said. G2 then goes on and picks. They picked the other SSA team in Limitless. And then we had Moist. They picked Game and Gladiators. So that makes sense. Like these first 3 picks, like maybe there had been some cuteness in like a G2 picking Gladiators over SSA, but no one went that route because obviously like Game and Gladiators has land experience and all that. So some harsh words coming out though from Cash saying like, well, Game and Gladiators, they already kicked one of their players, but they have to play with them anyway. So he thinks it's a free win as well. Like I think honestly, the first 3 teams are going to think it's pretty much a free win. After that, it gets a little bit tougher to see who you actually pick. So we got Pioneers coming out, and they picked Twisted Minds. A lot of people are surprised by this. Now, Twisted Minds, they are by far a wide gap between them, Rule 1, and Team Falcons. They are the 3rd best MENA team. That is for sure. But in spring, they were challenging a lot more versus the Falcons in a Rule 1, and it was a lot closer. So I think Twisted Minds on paper looks like a much weaker team, but in reality, spring split is where they really came into their own. So I think a lot of people are a little bit confused by the Pioneers pick, especially with rumors around G1, where they've been trying out new players that they didn't think they were going to make Worlds, so they weren't even practicing, yada, yada. So I think a lot of people thought maybe Pioneers might pick a G1. Maybe they would pick a South American team in Team Secret. Yes, it was close, but Team Secret also was not at the last major, so that's downturn for that squad. But that's probably the only surprise pick here. Like, I don't think it's a huge surprise. Like, just mine's only has one player that has RLCS LAN experience, so I could see that a bit. But like, you're gonna have to play him eventually anyway, right? So after that, we got Crew coming out from Sam. They actually wanted to pick Team Secret if they were allowed to, but in the wildcard draft, you're not allowed to pick your own region. So they went with G1. Following that, we had Space Station. They picked Team Secret, and I think this was more of a case of no one wants to touch Oxygen or Falcons because Oxygen can peak at any moment and be one of the better teams. And they could also be like inconsistent and not that good, but they have history of doing well in these types of environments. Like Jorius is like a Swiss merchant. He always does incredibly well, and like I wouldn't want to necessarily play them either. So SSG picked Team Secret from Sam. And then we have Power, who it was between Oxygen and Falcons. I think most people consider Falcons to be the hardest team out of the draftable squad. So Power picked Oxygen, and then Elevate, they get the unfortunate pick of the Falcons. So that's how it all plays out. So basically, we're going to go into Swiss round 1. Let me scooch back on over. And these are your first round matchups. But after that, the wildcard seeds go back into play. So really, the only picks that were like slightly off from the actual seeds, let me just turn that off, was like Falcons were the highest seed coming out, so they're the same exact spot. Oxygen was then the next highest. Team Secret was the highest after that. It was G1 and Twisted Minds were mixed, and the SSA and APAC teams were mixed because SSA is going to get one seed better than Game and Gladiators. So that was the only differences in terms of your actual seed. But we'll see how it all plays out. So that's how the wildcard draft goes. It was completed today. It was a grand old time. So if you were confused, no longer need to be confused. And also, if you didn't even know there was a draft, you would have been fine too, because most of the matches are exactly what they would have been anyway. But for those that are nerds like me that want to know exactly why a thing is a certain way, we got math formulas for you now. So, enjoy that. But that'll do it for this video. We will see you. World Championship Wildcard. I won't be there the first week during Wildcard, but I will be there for the main event. So you can catch me there. But it's going to be some entertaining Rocket League. Best of 7 for every single match. So it is incredibly important to do well at the Worlds. And why not? Make everything best of 7. So we'll see how it all plays out. But that'll do it for me. Thank you guys for watching. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.